everyone, welcome back. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Sarah Jane and I make videos about living in DC, writing and reading. So if any of that interests you, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe because it really helps support my channel. Today we are going to do a fall 2024 book releases. I have lined out 17 books that are releasing within the next couple of months that I think sound really good. Other people might find good as well. I've kind of have them everywhere. We have some thrillers, we have some romance, we have some cozy, we have some mystery, just a little bit of everything because I am so ready for fall. I'm like manifesting fall by wearing this sweater. It is actually like 80 degrees outside, and when I took my dog for a walk I was like sweating, so I was not super pleased with that, but we're doing it here for the video for the vibes. So I have these in order from release date. So this first one has actually already been released and you might have already heard about it. It's called Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. So this is a reimagining of Lady Macbeth by Shakespeare. Essentially this book gives her a voice, a past, and kind of transforms the way that the story has been told from a man's perspective and written about hers. This came out August 13th and I think it'd be nice. Like, I haven't read Shakespeare in a really long time and I kind of love the idea of like a retelling of a historical tale. Next up we have Bad Witches by H.B. Akumiah, I think is how you say the last name. This book came out August 20th. Three young women discover the unbelievable, their witches and their newfound magic may be key to saving the world. These three girls, one is a PR assistant, a teacher, and a formal child star, but the world that they live in, which is called the witch sphere, seems to be in turmoil and their powers seem to be a little bit off. So this is also Akumiah's debut novel, so I thought that'd be kind of nice to kind of give it a shout out. Next up is Immortal Dark by Tiget, Girma. I really hope I'm not butchering these. This releases on September 3rd. I originally saw the cover for this book and was like immediately intrigued. I was like, ooh, this just screams like Halloween time period. It is described as The Cruel Prince meets Ninth House, and it's supposed to be a dark romantic academia fantasy where a lost heiress must infiltrate an arcane society and live with a handsome vampire she suspects killed her family and kidnapped her sister, which is like, whoa, there's a lot going on right there. This is described as enemies to lovers, a romantasy, vampires, sentient houses, morally gray characters, villainous romantic leads, and dark academia. So if any of that sounds good to you, which it does to me, I think I would definitely be interested in this book. Watch out for Immortal Dark, coming out September 3rd. Next up we have So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. So Rachel Harrison also wrote Cackle, which I read last year and really enjoyed. It's essentially about a girl who stumbles upon a witch and you're just kind of like figuring out some odd things that are going on. But this cover was really cute when I saw it. I loved like all the little details in it. It's supposed to be a gothic horror about a woman who must learn to take life by the throat after a night out leads to irrevocable changes to this juicy, thrilling novel. Essentially, we're following a woman named Sloe Parker who is dreading her birthday. She does not want a reminder that she's getting older. Her husband books her a vacation, like birthday weekend getaway, not with him, but with her best friend. And unfortunately, during that time period, she has to come to terms with some of her husband's repeated infidelity. Her best friend named Naomi is like, listen, we gotta get you out of this kind of slump that you're in. So she orchestrates a wild night out with a group of random mysterious strangers that takes a horrifying turn that changes their lives forever. So I'm assuming they become vampires considering what the cover graphic looks like. Anyways, this sounded really interesting to me. I really liked Cackle, so I figured I would probably like this book as well, and I cannot wait till that comes out on September 10th. All right, next up we have Casket Case by Laura Evans. This is coming out also September 10th. I thought, first of all, I saw the cover for this and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks so cute. And looks like it might be a little bit lighter. So this is actually a debut rom-com by this author about a young woman returning home to run her family's casket business, and she falls in love with a seemingly perfect stranger, but the problem is he works for death. Now if you look at the cover graphic, or if you look at the cover, you can see like the Grim Reaper in the corner, which I'm assuming is what that's referring to. Also, this is set in Alabama, which I feel like I don't read a lot of books that are set in Alabama. Another book coming out September 10th is William by Mason Coile. September 10th seems to be a popular date for some fall releases. Once again, the cover of this book just really reeled me in. It gives me goosebumps just even looking at it now. This is a psychological horror meets cyber noir. A haunted house story in which the haunting is by AI. Honestly, doesn't literally sound like anything I've ever read before. We're following Henry, who's an engineer and who has finally made a breakthrough in his career by creating an artificially intelligent conscious, and he calls the half-form robot William. No one knows about William. Henry keeps himself inside his house, and his fixation with his project keeps him in the attic, away from everyone, including his pregnant wife, Lily. When some of Lily's co-workers show up, they want to meet Henry, they want to see the house, and Henry decides to introduce them to William, and things start to go a little strange. This book is pretty short. It's only going to be 224 pages, so I feel like this is going to be one of those books that you can just like sit down and knock out on like one gloomy rainy night in October. All right, next up is a book called Gaslight by Joris Peyafitte, I'm so sorry, and Shara Shepherd. Okay, so quick backstory about this book. I actually listened to this on podcasts on Q Code back in like 2019 or 2020. I remember I was in New York. I had never listened. They're called immersive audio experiences. So they're not like podcasts. They're like books that you are like reading from a script. It's like you're listening to a movie. That's literally what this was like. And this was the first one I'd ever listened to like this. And I remember listening to this and being like, oh my God, this is so good. So when I was researching for this video about like what books are coming out, I came across this one and I was like, oh my gosh, I remember just loving this book and thinking, or loving this, you know, podcast and thinking it was so good. So of course I'm gonna read it when it comes out. This comes out September 17th. It is a thriller that dredges the inner workings of cults and susceptibility of young minds and the fragility of both friendships and marriage. So we are following Rebecca, who is living in Nevada with her husband Tom and their 2 children. Honestly, it's been so long since I've listened to this, I don't even remember what it's about, but I just remember that like I was so intrigued by the story. She's kept her past in the past until her old friend Danny shows up at the doorstep one morning and kind of just like wrecks her life a little bit. Danny reminds her of what she fled many years ago and all the secrets that she's kept from her husband Tom, and she tries her hardest to manage the situation and figure out what Danny wants, but all Rebecca seems to find is just layers and layers of deceit. This deceit has a lot to do with ISB, which is the cult Danny has been a part of for 10 years. It's a group of spiritual seekers living deep in the woods, cut off from their families and friends, led by a charismatic leader who is a master at manipulation and mind control. So we don't know if Danny is there because she's trying to break free of the cult, or is she on a recruiting mission to get Rebecca to come back from the cult. It's really hard to tell. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about it. I just remember like listening to this. Now like rereading the synopsis, I'm kind of like, okay, like I kind of want to listen to this on Q Code again, so I might. I highly recommend if you listen to podcasts to give this one a listen if you don't want to wait for the book to come out. Next up, we have one I'm so excited about. I'm excited about all these books, obviously, because I'm making a video about all the fall reads that I'm excited to read. So these are all the books that I'm excited to read, and I think many people might be excited to read too. But this one I'm especially excited about, which is the third Gilmore Girl, a memoir by Kelly Bishop. First and foremost, I really hope that she narrates the audiobook herself. I would just love to listen to her like read this. You know, I just think there's something really special about that. But anyways, myself and every other basic girl out there watches Gilmore Girls every fall. As soon as the first leaf turns orange, Gilmore Girls will be on. And as I've gotten older, I've just really grown to appreciate her character so much more than I think I did when I was a kid. But essentially Kelly Bishop is sharing her 6 decades of show business. So it won't just be about Gilmore Girls, it'll be also about, you know, Broadway, Dirty Dancing, and all the rest of her life. But I of course am very excited about her time with Gilmore Girls. So that will be coming out September 17th. Also coming out September 17th is Entitlement by Rumann. This is a book about money and morality. I'm not gonna lie, I really liked this book because of the cover. As someone who previously lived in New York, it's very obviously set in New York. But it seems that this book is playing upon the idea of like wants versus needs. So we're following this girl named Brooke, who she isn't in need of anything, but she definitely has wants. And so we're talking about race and privilege, philanthropy and generosity, passion and obsession. I think it'd be interesting. I think like it's marketed as family life. It's probably not like your standard fiction book, but as someone who I used to work in New York City and I used to work in the philanthropy world, I think this could be kind of really interesting. Next up we have The Hitchcock Hotel, which comes out September 24th by Stephanie Wrobel. All of the covers this year are really killing it, guys. Like when I was researching, I was like, well, this looks good and this looks good and this looks good, and so all the graphic designers out there are killing it. A Hitchcock fanatic with an agenda invites old friends for a weekend stay at his secluded themed hotel. We're following a guy named Alfred, who is not your typical Hitchcock fan. He is a founder, owner, and manager of the Hitchcock Hotel, which is a Victorian house in the White Mountains dedicated to the master of suspense. There, Alfred offers his guests round-the-clock film screenings, movie props, and memorabilia in every room, plus an aviary with 50 crows, which is super interesting. To celebrate the hotel's first anniversary, he invites his former best friends from his college film club for a reunion. He hasn't spoken to any of them in 16 years, not after something happened. But who better than to celebrate Alfred's creation and to help him finish it? After all, no Hitchcock set is complete without a body. So this one seems like it'll be interesting, perfect for the fall time period. So those are all the upcoming releases in September that have really sparked my interest. Moving into October, first up we have The Boyfriend by Fredia Mcfadden. So I am a longtime Fredia Mcfadden fan. I've read many of her books. I read The Housemate as sort of like my gateway book into her stuff, but I've read many books since then. The Boyfriend, which first of all, I'm surprised The Boyfriend is coming out because she just released the third Housemaid book. So, I mean, this woman is working. Like the rest of them, this is a thriller. We're following Sydney Shaw, who is a single woman in New York who has terrible luck dating. She's gone through many different types of men, and finally she feels like she's hit the jackpot. Her new boyfriend is pretty much perfect. He's charming, he's handsome, he works as a doctor at a local hospital, so she is just swept off her feet. But then there is a brutal murder of a young woman, the latest in the string of deaths across the coast, which confounds the police. The primary suspect is a mystery man who dates his victims before he kills them. Sydney should feel safe. After all, she's dating the guys of her dreams, but she cannot shake her own suspicions that the perfect man may not be as perfect as he seems, because someone is watching her every move and she doesn't get to know the truth. She may be the killer's next victim. So it's a dark story about obsessions and things that we will do for love. I love Fredia. Can't wait to read it. We have a couple more books coming out October 1st. So the next one is called Society of Lies by Lauren Ling Brown. This one, I once again loved the cover, which is what intrigued me at first. This is a dark and haunting debut that explores secret societies, the bonds of sisterhood, and the intricacies of privilege at an elite college. Once again, we do love supporting a debut author. So the question on the back is, how far would you go to belong? Maya has returned to Princeton for her college reunion. It's been a decade since she's graduated and she's looking forward to seeing old faces. This visit is also special because Maya is going to be attending the graduation of her little sister Naomi. But then Maya receives the news that Naomi is dead. The police are calling it an accident, but Maya suspects that there is more to the story than what is being led on. As Maya pieces together what happened the months leading up to her sister's death, she begins to realize how much Naomi hid from her. Despite her warnings, she's joined the Sterling Club, which is the most exclusive social club on campus, the same one Maya belonged to. And if she had to guess, Naomi was likely tapped for the secret society within it. So the more that she begins to uncover, the more terrified she becomes that Naomi's decision to follow in her footsteps might have been what got her killed. It doesn't really strike me as academia, like dark academia, which I feel like is really popular during this time of year. But we do have a secret society, which is super interesting. So that sounds like it's gonna be a good time. Next up, we have A Grim Reaper's Guide to Catching a Killer. This is by Maxie Dara, also coming out October 1st. The cover design for this reminded me of the Finley Donovan books, if you guys have read that series, just between the color scheme and the graphic art. So this seems like we're in a little bit of another world where modern day Grim Reapers wear business casual, not bad clothes, and they don't carry skits. They work for other places, and the Department of Natural Causes is the least exciting gig. And that's how Kathy likes it. She's boring and she's predictable. She's had enough stress in her personal life. She's mid-divorce, pregnant, and terrified. She doesn't have what it takes to be a good mom. She goes to pick up a new client and finds his soul is missing. So when she tracks down Connor, he angrily insists he was murdered and he refuses to move on until Kathy finds out why and by whom. She is 45 days away from solving a mystery of this boy's soul who is doomed to roam the earth as a ghost forever. So she calls on the help of a retired mentor, her almost ex-husband, and inconveniently Connor himself, and it's the wildest case of her career. So that's all we know about this book. Interesting, different. I always love a little bit of something different. So the last one for October 1st is Queen's Game by Katherine McGee. Okay, so this one isn't really like fall vibes, but I really wanted to mention it because I've read the entire American Royal series and I did like enjoy it. So when I found out she was coming up with this series, I just wanted to give it an honorable mention. It's essentially like American Royals, but you're visiting 19th century Europe amid the glamour and intrigue of the Victorian era. So it's a historical romance inspired by true events where we have three princesses struggling to find love and they end up vying for the hearts of two future kings. So just a quick plug for that because I thought that sounded kind of interesting. Okay, coming out October 8th, we have The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekulak, I think is how you say his name. So this is a suspense novel about a father trying to save his daughter from a life-altering decision that will put everything he loves on the line. So we're following Frank, who is shocked when his daughter Maggie calls him for the first time in 3 years. He is convinced that their estrangement would have been permanent. He's even more surprised when she invites him to her upcoming wedding in New Hampshire. Frank is ecstatic and is determined to make things right. He arrives to find that the wedding is a private estate. It's very secluded, very luxurious, very much out of his league. It seems that Maggie failed to mention that she's marrying Aiden, the son of a very famous tech billionaire. So he feels very out of place. Frank focuses on reconnecting with Maggie and getting to know her and her new family, but it's hard because Aiden is withdrawn and he's evasive, and Maggie doesn't seem to have time for him, and he finds that the locals are disturbingly hostile to the Gardens. So Frank wants to know more, like what is this family that his daughter is marrying into, but he's worried that if he pushes himself too hard, he could lose Maggie forever. So this is a thriller that delves into the heart of family, and it's supposed to be quite a bit of suspense. I am interested. I love a good suspense thriller novel, and it doesn't sound like there's like a dead body or anything like that, but it sounds like maybe there's some dirt on the family. I'm not sure, but either way, I felt like this was giving like fall vibes. Okay, next up is Spectacular by Stephanie Garber. This is coming out October 22nd. I am so excited for this book. This is the 4th book in the Caravel series, which if you haven't read that series, it's an amazing series. It's actually a holiday novella, not really the 4th book. So a little bit early to be reading this in fall, but I will definitely be picking it up probably anyways because I just love her writing. Stephanie Garber has this way of just creating a beautiful magical world that you can just like see yourself in. Like there's like gumdrops and candy canes and gingerbread houses and all these just like beautiful dresses and whimsical things and snowflakes, and it's just a gorgeous world. And so if her book is coming out, I will absolutely be there. So we're back at Meridian Empire. It's Great Holiday Eve. Scarlet is planning a spectacular holiday celebration for the city. Donatella is searching for the perfect gift. Julian is looking handsome and green. And Legend is not fond of the Great Holiday. So this is definitely a little early for fall, but I just wanted to mention it because I know there's so many people who are also like me who are big fans of Stephanie Garber's work, and I just thought that other people would be interested to know that that is coming out. Last and certainly not least of fall 2024 releases that I am so excited for is Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibanez, coming out November 5th. Okay, let's get into it. Isabel Ibanez wrote the book Where the River Flows, but is essentially like The Mummy. It gives like the Mummy vibes with Brendan Fraser and all that. So this is the 2nd book, and we are picking up, I'm hoping, where the last one left off. So this is going to be a duology. It is a immersive historical fantasy set in Egypt filled with adventure and rivals to lovers romance. We're following Inez, who traveled across the world to Egypt seeking answers into her parents' recent and mysterious deaths, but after her searching led her down a perilous road filled with heartache, betrayal, and dangerous magic that pulled her deep into the past. When Tio Ricardo issues an ultimatum about her inheritance, she's left with only one option to consider, which is marriage to Whitford Hayes. Oh my gosh. Former British soldier, her uncle's aide-de-camp, and one-time nemesis, Whit has his own mysterious reasons for staying in Egypt. With her heart on the line, Inez might have to bind her fate to one person whose secret plans could ruin her. So excited for this book to come out. I loved the first one. It was like unlike any other book that I had read so far, and I am someone who just like loved ancient Egypt when I was a kid. So when I read this book, I was like, oh my god, I was obsessed. So those are 17 books coming out in fall 2024 that I am so excited about. I hope this video was helpful to you if you are looking for a book to read this season and a new release and a new author to support. Please let me know in the comments if there was any book from this list that you found really interesting and that you want to read. I'm going to post a video soon of my fall TBR. I don't know if I'm going to do it by month or just like by the season, but I definitely have all these books on my TBR for fall, but I also have other books that I want to read that aren't new releases that I also plan on reading this season. So anywho, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe because it really does help support my channel, and I will talk to you guys in another one. Bye.